Welcome back, YouTube. I am Baylor Mage and we are back with another Last Epoch build. This one, my favorite so far. You can see we have quite a bit of ward, but there's a lot to get into on this one. So we're going to start with the important uniques that I used. I dropped these on my other characters and I wanted to use them, and I wanted to use them together. So that's where it started. First we've got Exsanguinous, I think. Body armor causes me to lose a fairly decent chunk of my health every second and gain a chunk of my missing health as ward per second. So, as well as immunity to bleed. I don't really know how much bleed damage there is. I'm not sure how relevant that is. But you can see I'm sitting on very low life and very high ward just sitting around in town. That is entirely because of that. Now, I decided I wanted to go with an Ignite build, and I also found the Touch of the Pontifex, if I've said that right. Nice two-handed mace with 130% chance to ignite, 130% fire damage, as well as some cremate enemies, which we're not worried about, and some minions, which we're also not worried about. So for anyone who's just starting out Last Epoch, Ignite chance works a lot differently in this game than other games. So if this was all the Ignite chance I had, 130% chance to ignite, we would be guaranteed to ignite and have a 30% chance to ignite a second time. So more and more and more Ignite chance gives us just more stacks of Ignite per hit. So they're the two I started with. Now, I'm wearing these two because I thought, ooh, I could stack some dodge rating and get some ward on dodge, and so I'm wearing them, but frankly, I wouldn't bother. They're not important. They're not part of the build. It doesn't matter. So we're scaling pure Ignite at this point, which means I'm not worried about the fact that my attacks do very little damage. They only have to hit. So again, Ignite in this game working differently than what we're used to coming from other ARPGs. Ignite itself has its own base damage that it does, and you have to scale that separately. It is not based on the hit that you hit them with. It is not based on melee. It's not based on attack. It's not based on spell. It is its own Ignite damage that you can see. Is it in other stats? Yes, Ignite damage. So right now my Ignite is up to 200. That's per application. So, the build. We have gone with a Spellblade. This is the highest level character I've made so far. It was super strong, super fun. So we have gone with the Spellblade, and we have gone with the attacking variant. So I'm using Flame Reave as my main attack. So we're going to quickly go over passives and why we're picking those. So for starters, anything that has intellect in it, we're picking that. All of our attacks are based on int, and that's nice. Also, our fireball, which we'll get to in a minute, is also based on int, and that's nice. We're mostly scaling Ignite damage, so the extra damage we're getting out of stacking int here is coincidental, and I won't turn down extra damage. It's not our main scaling, but it's great. But more importantly, intellect gives ward retention. Each point of intellect grants 5% ward retention, so it's going to make the ward here decay slower. So we're stacking the shit out of that everywhere we can find it. So we take all of our intellect points. I took a little bit of extra elemental damage because I had to get up to the next row that I cared about, which was cast speed and melee attack speed, because we're interested in applying as many ignites as possible. Upping our attack speed is important, upping our damage with melee hits not so much. And then we've got ward retention. That was enough to get us into Spellblade, so we have gone for, over here, grants a 24% increased melee attack speed and 10% chance to gain more ward. Loving the ward. I ended up taking this because I needed extra points somewhere, and I'm not entirely sure whether I should have. I maybe should have taken this one for more flat fire damage, but I thought having chance to shock would be nice. It's really hard to tell in this game without a path of building that I'm used to, but I thought having chance to shock on top of everything else would be nice. So we max this one, it's important. This one, not so much. You can put these extra points somewhere else if you think they're better. So we've gone this one for flat fire damage is great, whatever, but 50% extra chance to ignite, so that's global, that'll affect everything. 50% increased damage over time if we've hit an enemy with a melee attack recently, which we always do. And we've gone for this one because it gives +8 dexterity and some added fire. Now I did that because I was stacking the dodge thing that I was talking about earlier, but honestly my dodge is so bad, probably don't need to worry about it, which means you could free up these points for something else. More in here for flat damage, more in here for elemental damage is probably what I'd do. Elemental damage is one of the ways to scale our ignite, so I would probably move them into there if I could. Can't respec very easily anyway, so it's not worth our time, so I haven't. I skipped everything up here because we're scaling ignites in this build. We're not after any of the elemental damage with attacks, chance for novas. We don't care about any of these. So I put a bunch more points in the bottom here to jump up to the top, where we've got increased damage over time if you've used a melee attack. Obviously, we always do. And then we've got this one, which comes with just some extra flat damage, which whatever is nice, and 15 intellect. So that's that skill tree out of the way. Now let's address why I've gone with Flame Reave and why it's so brokenly strong right now. So, Flame Reave. So we end up taking this node, which makes our flames return to us. By default, it just goes out and doesn't come back. This makes it come back, so it hits twice. Super important, that one. Then we've taken what we needed to get there. That's it, because melee fire damage we don't really care about. Fire damage and fire protection, if you've dealt a crit recently, could be better. I could have put more points into this one instead of coming down here, but at the time when I was building it, I was planning on using these two for dodge, and this unique says you cannot deal crits, whereas I don't actually suggest using that, so you could max that out for a bit more damage instead of coming down here. So I've done those to get there. I've done this, which is just the points that I needed to travel through. I've grabbed attack speed and adds mana cost, and waves travel 45% faster, which does give me really good clear, but honestly without this it was already good clear. So I would be dropping points here and putting them in here instead. But our most important one is this one. The most important skill right here, 100% chance with 7 points in it to cast Fireball on hit. Fireballs are affected by the nodes in your Fireball tree. You lose mana equal to Fireball's mana cost when this effect procs. At first, I was a little worried about that, because as you see, I use mana very quickly. And I was like, oh, I can't really afford extra mana cost. And then I found Fireball costs no mana to cast. So we hit the points we needed to get out there. And then we hit as much ignite chance as we could. Max that out, 150% chance to ignite. Then we maxed this one out so that all of our fireballs pierce. So now we've got piercing fireballs that hit every single time with no cooldown every single time we hit with a melee attack. There's no cooldown, it'll spam every single one, and it'll hit twice per attack because the wave goes out and the wave comes back in again. So now we're doing tons of separate hits that all do ignites. Again, it seems like it's a hybrid build because it's attack and a spell, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we affect our ignite with because we're just ignite scaling, and that doesn't care whether it comes from a spell or an attack. So this is great, and I put the extra points into reduces fire protection by 80 for 4 seconds on hit. So that's always up, so it's just a minus res thing that happens automatically. So these two together become all of my damage, and it's fantastic damage. We'll show you that in a minute. So next up, teleport, ward stuff. Same as my first build that I did. You get as much ward as you can on teleporting, and you get ward retention if you've teleported. And then I dumped the extra points into extra elemental damage if you've teleported recently, because that affects our ignite. So you'll see our ward jump up quite a bit when we teleport around. I'm quite often running around maps with 3 or 4k without even trying, just because teleport is a good movement skill and we want to use it all the time anyway, because we like getting around fast. So you'll see that's quite quite easy to bump that ward number up to 4k, and quite comfortable to run around and attack in between and keep it above 4k. Very tanky. In fact, so tanky, I haven't even bothered to stop and get resistances, and I'm level 70. I just don't die. Don't need them. Without these two uniques, it would free up a lot of room to get a bunch more resistances. I also found this while leveling. I'll touch on that just because I found it. 50% chance to ignite on hit. Seemed like a pretty useful ring. Found it while I was leveling, so I chucked it on. The rest of the set, whatever. Not really important. Just that ring itself, quite nice. So, next, we run out of mana a lot. We run out of mana very quickly. So, I took Mana Strike, because hitting with anything at all will ignite, because I've got a base ignite chance everywhere. So I know I'll be able to ignite still while getting my mana back. And then I took additional mana, because I want to get mana back as quick as possible. I took the travel nodes to all of the area so that I could hit multiple mobs at the same time, and then more additional mana. I had 1 extra point left over, threw it in there, or ward gained on hit, because why not? And this one, which is global damage increase if you've hit with Mana Strike in the last 4 seconds. So that's going to scale our ignite and our other hits. So that's a fantastic mana generating tool. And then my last one up is this one, Ice Ward, which I wasn't even sure about until I got to the end and realized how really good it was. Because, excuse me. So I wasn't sure about it to begin with, because it says grants ward per second but drains mana per second, can be cast instantly, and I was like, ooh, but I'm having mana problems. And then once I got there and unlocked it, I realized the tree has reduce Ice Ward's mana drain by 100%. Now this is worded differently than other ones I've seen. Other ones I've seen that affect mana say mana efficiency increased by. Now if you were to increase mana efficiency by 100%, that would halve the mana cost. Whereas if you reduce mana cost by 100%, that gets rid of it. That's no mana cost. That's 100. That's all mana cost gone. So I chucked those 4 points in first, and now Ice Ward doesn't cost me anything at all. Then I put in 60% ward retention while it's up, 75 armor, 5 additional ward regen, because why not? And then I had a few extra points. So I went down here, I grabbed Ice Ward, cast Frost Nova every 3 seconds, and a little bit of area and a little bit of frequency on it. These points all here, not super important. I probably would go this way instead if I were doing it again, and grab some block chance, because why not? And you get additional block chance or whatever, just because there's extra points there and nothing to do with them, and this is not impactful. It's really not making any difference. So I might as well take block, but again, super not important. So that is the whole build, and you'll notice that when I put on Ice Ward, which I'll do now, my ward goes up because I've increased my ward retention, but now I get this annoying Nova that just continually happens. A little bit annoying, so I wouldn't suggest taking that. And now I'll just show you how it runs real quick, because smoothest build I've played so far, fantastic. In the arena, it will cause you to lag a bit. On a decent pack, I think you're doing over 2,000 ignites per attack. If there's a decent pack size, and it's not handling the calculations super smoothly. But basically, as quick as you can tap everything, you can just run around and everything dies from degens. You can notice the fireballs coming out the back. You can notice the big juicy ignite numbers. I'm trying to attack just slowly so you can see the ignite numbers. Big juicy ignite numbers, because of the amount of ignites we're stacking is just proper disgusting. We are stacking way too many ignites. The damage is way too high, and you'll see us just running around with all this ward retention, just being so tanky we don't need to worry about resistances, and doing so much damage we don't need to worry about anything else. There's no way in the world this doesn't get nerfed, but frankly, we've not had to invest in any other form of damage and survival other than chance to ignite and ward retention. We've not done anything. So even if they halve the efficiency of this, it's going to be fine. So you'll see, we'll grab this guy and we'll just kill him. We won't even really move. We're just gonna stand here at level 7. We'll teleport once because he moved. And runs over. Super strong single target, super strong clear, very fun. Favorite build I've played so far. We're going to be moving on with something else tomorrow because I already got this to level 70 and I want to do a bunch of build guides. But, ooh, if I was gonna push up ladders, ooh, this is what I would be playing. Yeah. Alright, so that's it. If anyone else is playing a variant of this that's different and think they have advice, please comment, because I didn't get to try all of the things I wanted to try because I can't respec my entire tree easily and it's annoying and frustrating and I've chosen not to do it. So definitely comment, tell me what you think, tell me if you've got any other ideas, and yeah. We'll be making a new build tomorrow and hopefully another new build guide in the next day or two. So keep an eye out for those, and I will see everybody later.